It's actually doing the transcription in English, but. All right. So get a little bit bigger. Okay, guess we're gonna keep that. All right, so this is, like I said, one of the old style labs that I did in the past. The few more directions there than I've been giving you, but that's fine. This is going to be the one time that I'm going to ask you to actually open this file on your computer because we're going to copy and paste some of this code because it just takes too long to type it. So part 0 is for you to create a main function, which you all should be doing anyway. We're going to put I'm going to put a print line in here that just says it's the list lab or something, just where I know what it is when I look at it again later. You can put your name in it, whatever. I'm a paranoid person, so I'm going to go down here and go ahead and put my call to main in and then write all my code in between the two. I do that because that way I never forget to call main, because I've been grading things and I'm all but caught up. I just got to get your assignment 6 guessing game finished. The number of students that are turning in stuff that has code commented out went up a lot. So remember, if you comment your code out when you're testing, you have to take those comment marks out. So when I press the run button, it does what it's supposed to. If you didn't, I took off points because it didn't run. So just letting you know. All right, so we got part 0 done. Part 1 is to modify existing code. This is where I want you to copy and paste, because getting this quote typed in exactly right is tedious. So I'm going to grab all of this. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paste it. It looks like, since it's coming from a Word document and not a PowerPoint, everything should have copied correctly. That's the reason I didn't give you a PowerPoint, a PDF. I gave you a Word document where you could copy and paste easier from it. So what this function we just copied is doing, or is going to do for us, is it is going to count something because it's cleverly named count, right? And I gave you a comment about what the function's doing, right? So this is messed up, but that shouldn't be green. I'll fix that in a minute. This is going to be a quote, an actual quote that we want to count things in. It might work. We may not. We'll run it in a minute and see. So what we want to do is we want to count letters. So in this particular one, it's set up where it's going to count the number of E's, right? So we have a variable that's going to hold the number of E's. We set it to 0. We're going to have it count the total number of characters. So it's going to count every character up there. Remember, a space is a character to Python because it holds a spot in the. We're going to have a for loop that's going to check each character in P. P is going to be our quote. If that character is in the lows list or it's in the uppers list, that's where our or comes in because it's either or. Then we're going to add 1 to the total characters. And we're going, if that character is an E, we're going to count it. Right? So we're counting all characters and we're counting lowercase e's. Why lowercase? Because that's all we asked it to look for right there. Is that what you were going to ask me? If I wanted it to get the uppercase e's, then I would put an or that looks similar to this, where a character equals lowercase e, or a character equals uppercase e. Then it would count both. Right? All right. It's going to create the percentage of e's by doing some math. It's going to take the number of e's divided by the total number of characters, and that gives you a decimal number. You can multiply that by 100, and that gives you the percentage. Basic math. And then it'll print out. So if we did this right, and that's a big if, I should be able to go up here to main and do and just call count. Right? So let's run it and see if my copy paste worked. Oh, I forgot to name it. I forgot what number lab we're on, so we'll just put list over there. So my text contains 166 alphabet characters, which 25 or 15 point, a lot of digits %. Now, there actually is more than 166 characters in that string, but we only told it to do the ones that were alpha, which were letters, by creating lows and ups. That helped us exclude punctuation and those spaces. Right? Because our for loop only added 1 to total if it was in lows or ups. So lows is lowercase letters, ups is uppercase letters. Yes? So this is a really good example of how you have a loop with a conditional nested into it. And that conditional has another conditional nested inside of it. So this is a nested structure. So this for loop contains this if statement. This if statement contains this if statement. So this last if statement never runs if the statement above it didn't run. Right? And I'm doing this because I want to make sure that y'all have got the logic. Because I'm trying to prep you for 1301. Because it moves a lot faster than this, right? Those of you that had 1301 will tell you that we're moving slow compared to that one. All right. So that gets part 1 done. So if we go back to, oh, I made that really small, didn't I? Where'd it go? Back to our directions. We did A, we copied and pasted it. I guess if I read my own directions, I would know it's lab 7, wouldn't I? We're going to modify what we have now. So we know it works the way it's written because we tested it. So now we want to do some modifications. We want to modify it so it counts the characters in the letters determined by the frequency and percentage. Do not use a one-letter variable such as P as a variable name. So what the code I gave you is very bad style. So go give it a better variable name. And when you change it, that means you're going to have to change it everywhere it's used. So we want to change P to something that makes more sense, that's more logical. So what is P holding right now? It's holding a phrase. It's a really long one. So you could just change it to that if you wanted to. Or if you want it to be even clearer, you could call it quote, because it is a quote, right? Ultimately, we're going to change this where this is not hard-coded in. You're going to ask for an input, and then you're going to put that in phrase. That makes sense? So we're refactoring code. So if we rename phrase there, everywhere P exists, which it exists here, we have to change that also. Oops. Don't know what I just did, but right? Is it anywhere else in the code? Did I miss it? I don't think so. But at this point, I'm going to run it again just to make sure that I didn't miss something. Because if I did, it's going to pop up a syntax error saying P is undefined. It didn't, so we're good. So why do I keep testing things after I make a change? Because it'll make your life much, much easier. Yes, sir. Yes. So just make sure that when you do change things, that you make sure you change it in all places and test it after you make a change like this. Because if the computer is going to catch your errors faster than you are, and you don't want to get 6 changes in and then realize that something didn't go right on the first one, because it's hard to find it. It's hard to backtrack to there because your brain's moved on to something else. All right. Now we want to refactor the code so it doesn't need both lows and ups. What if we just converted the whole phrase to one or the other? Right? So we could just come in here and say, can't remember if it's capitalized or not. So here I go mixing my Java and my other stuff again. So let's. Yep, it's just lower. It's not too lower. So see, I did completely mix my Java up. Y'all never mix up languages, right? So if I do that, then I can just completely get rid of the ups, right? But when I do that, I also have to get rid of it right here. You're fine. So does that make sense? So again, I've made a change. So I know it seems like a lot of wasted effort to just keep testing it, but I'm going to keep testing it because it saves me time in the long run. So we're back to it. We still have the right numbers. So everything's working. All right. So that takes us down to step E. Create a new function that prompts the user for a phrase and the user for a letter that it wants to count, that you want to count. And then we'll have to modify our function to use that, right? So we're going to create a new function. And you can put it below or above, it doesn't matter. What do we want to call it? About get phrase. Y'all can come up with something else if you want to, but that's all. That's as creative as my brain's going to get right now. So get phrase, we're going to have it get the phrase. And I can use the same variable name because it's a different function. And you can just tell them to enter their text, whatever that text they want it to be. And then I'm going to be really creative with my variable name. I'm going to also ask them to input letter to count. So I think this will work. Because that loosey-goosey Python thing again. So we want it to get a phrase, and we want it to get the letter, and we want it to do it in a different function. That would be easier. Let's not return it. If I read all the directions, let's not return it. So I didn't read the directions. Then it wants you to call the function, the count function inside of this function. So that means we're going to have to change count up to. So in here now, we want to call count, but we want to pass in the phrase and the letter. But that won't work with the current function definition we have for count because it doesn't take any parameters. So we're going to have to go now and refactor count to take parameters. Yes. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to edit this, and it's going to take phrase and it's going to take letter. And now I don't need all of this because it's going to be passed in from the function call. Yes? Okay, you got it. You guys? Yeah, I'm good with that. So basically, this is going to make this reusable. By making the changes we're making now, it will work for whatever quote or phrase we give it and whatever letter. As it's written, it only works for this specific quote and the specific letter E, right? So we're going to change it up where we can use it on anything. So we're going to get rid of that. I'm still going to force phrase to be lowercase because it just makes my life easier. Now that I know that works, I can go ahead and, if I want to, I can delete this line I've commented out too. It's up to you. We aren't getting the number of E's anymore, so this variable really needs to change to number of letters, which means we're going to have to go down here and change it here. Oops. And I'm going to be honest with you, some of the fancier IDEs will let you use their refactor option or rename option and change them all for you. But this one's not quite that sophisticated. So I changed it in 3 places, and I think that will be enough. But we'll see in a second. All right. So now, instead of calling count in main, I'm going to call get phrase. Right? So what we're doing here is this is a really good example of showing you how a function can call another function. It also is giving you a really good example of how you can nest conditional statements inside of a for loop. And we've also walked through how to refactor code to be more useful by taking parameters instead of being hard-coded to one set of data. This is kind of the lab where I start pulling all those major concepts together, because the next project is going to pull all those major concepts together. And a project's coming. All right. I keep forgetting that I can't use the touchscreen in idle. All right, so let's run it and see if it works. Oops. I have a syntax error. Oops. Sorry, I put an extra colon in there. So now I have to enter text. I'm going to be really short here because I don't like to type a lot. So we'll do hello and world. How about that? And then we'll pick L because there's 3 of them pretty obviously there. So did I mean number of letter? I did. So I missed one of the numbers of E. This happens frequently when you're refactoring code. So that's why we test, and we keep testing, and we keep testing, and we keep testing. So I need to go find it. At the bottom. This is what happens when it doesn't all fit on your screen and you can't see it at the same time. No, not that I have found. It really annoys me. Really annoys me. And I could use a different IDE, but I try to use one that's readily available, free for everybody. So now that I've corrected my mistake, let's run it again. So hello world has 10 characters in it, one of which is E. I got to fix the top. There should be more than one L though. So I messed something up, right? I didn't change my logic inside of my count to count the E's. And yes, I'm doing this intentionally to show you how So right here, and if we're looking for E, what we need to do is change that to letter, right? And obviously I need to go down here and change my print statement. Yeah. All right, let's run it. Just know that the print statement is messed up and I'll fix it in a minute. Oops. My computer hates me. Okay, we're going with D. Why? Why do you hate me, computer? Nothing. Yes. I didn't. You can keep it as percent with E. It would make more sense if you changed it to a letter, but it will work that way. I'm trying to figure out why it's not counting all of my. You don't need the hires because they're gone. What did I do wrong?
Oh. You could try it. I don't. Yeah.
Oh, that could be a problem. It's probably not the problem we're having right now, but it could be a problem. I hate it when my code goes wonky on me.
So in cases like this, you stick with different like inputs, and see if it does any.
We're going to go test it again. That worked because there are 3 S's in there. It's going to spontaneously decide it works. Just give me a second. I'm still testing my code.
Maybe we did save something before we ran out.
I'm guessing it's idle. I know the print statement's wrong. I still think it's getting keys. Okay, yes, ma'am. Okay, I'll be there in a second. If you're having errors that say trace back, look at start at the bottom and read up and find the first thing that has a line on there. Oh. What line number would you like me to look at? 20. It should not need parentheses before the colon. Because we are not calling a function. All right, so this seems to magically be working for me. I'm gonna call it an IDE fail. It didn't save something. All right, so I'm gonna come around real quick and make sure everybody's code is working to this point. If you have yours working and your neighbors is not working, feel free to look over and help them. I'm gonna start at the front and I'm gonna work my way back looking at everybody's. So we're gonna take a little pause. So it's all. All right. Okay. How many letters? So you can. There's any coming out. Is it on the third? It's probably letters. You have to be friendly.
I'm not.
We're trying to get a verse. Just wrote it up.
Yeah, it's just the. Few things. I didn't tell them. I know I'm black, but it says, there's two. It says. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, change them. Oh, yeah. The percent would be. Boom. The one that's. I'll just put change it. Change it. Now. So what is so what is you put in all this was right there, then that in your letter. Wait.
You can actually copy and paste some of this. I forget that it will be. This is not 100% correct, but. So if you do this and you put a comma right here and a comma right here, and you change this to letter. Oops.
That's what I think.
Whoa. Now it should print the actual letter and not E. Formatting is a pain. Okay, just a second. All right, so give me just a second. I'll come look at yours, promise. So after we do that, and we have it working correctly, part 2. If you got it working, go start looking at part 2. Well, it's so that's what the so it's saying is it's divided by 0. So what it's saying is zero. So let's go look at the last. But now it's just it's you got it in yeah. I think. Let's all change these. Yeah. I think she puts percentage to this thing that to simplify it. This would be easier with it. You're thinking that right? So we're just right here. Because it's kind of the goal is all of it. But we're going to leave it around. And try that. All right. So part 2, as you write a function that does the following based on what the function does, choose an appropriate function name. So I'm trying to teach y'all to choose appropriate names. We're going to prompt the user for a phrase, which we already know how to do. We're going to display the following about the phrase. So really, you can use your get phrase function to do some of this if you want to, or you can just copy and paste that line out into this one. You want to know the length of the phrase, the lowercase version of the phrase. I showed you how to do 2 lower, so or the lower function, right? The upper function works the same way, so that'll give you the uppercase version of the phrase, and the phrase without any punctuation. So if you go further down, I gave you a little function down here that you can copy and paste that will remove the punctuation. Now, to do this, you're going to have to import string at the top of your file because it does you're going to start calling some stuff that you want to use on strings, right? So if we start writing this, I assume y'all would like to write this together. This is when I wish I had 2 screens. All right, so we want to create a new function. What do we want to call this one? I'm going to call it word fun because, well, why not? So it was basically I'm going to hit enter a bunch of times just to get it to come up on the screen. You guys don't have to add all these blank space. I'm just trying to get it where y'all can see what I'm typing. So we have word fun. We want to prompt the user for a phrase. And yeah, you can just have copied and pasted this from above. If it wasn't so dang hard to scroll on this computer, I would have just scrolled up and copied it. So now I have the phrase. I want to display the length of the phrase, the lowercase version of the phrase, uppercase, and the phrase without punctuation. So I'm not going to worry about punctuation right now. I'm going to come back to that because the other 3 are really easy things that we already know how to do. and they're print statements, right? So we're going to print the phrase, I can't type today, is the phrase length is I went back to full screen again because I like full screen. So, and that should give us the length, right? We can print lower case. And you can make these, what you can make your print statements say whatever you want them to say as long as they make sense. You don't have to copy exactly word for word what I put inside the quotes. And the upper is right. Should be that simple. So let's test it and see. Go to options and change your font size. All right. So I commented out get phrase. I don't want to go through all that right now. Before you turn it in, take that out. So again, you can enter whatever phrase you want to. And since we're not worrying about punctuation, I'm not going to add any punctuation yet. So it tells me that it is 11 characters and it gives it to me in uppercase and lowercase. Now, why is it 11 characters? Because of the space, because we didn't specifically tell it to only count letters by putting in that for loop to check to see if it's a letter or not. If you want to, feel free to add that functionality, but you don't have to. Just know that it's going to count any spaces. Yeah, I'm going back down. So WordFund so far is a pretty easy to set up function because all you're doing is using the built-in functions for a string, right? Now, to remove any of the punctuation, it's going to take a little bit more work because you have to define for your code what's considered punctuation. So like we did the ABC lowercase list and the ABC uppercase list, we're going to have to define a punctuation list. I was kind enough to add this to your Word document so you can go and copy and paste it, or if it won't let you copy and paste, you can type it in. Completely up to you. But you need this function. And to be safe and make sure all the functions are going to work the way we want them to from string, I'm going to go up and go ahead and just import string. I'm not sure you implicitly have to because string is one of those things that usually just works. But it never hurts to cover your bases and make sure you have implicitly said, I'm going to use the string module. So import string at the top. And yes, I know Python would have let me put import string directly over the function and it would have worked. Don't do it. Style counts. I had a student in my office who was making a C in their CS2 class because they weren't using check style and they were losing points on style for their code. Not that the code didn't work, it just wasn't following the style guide. Style is important when you move out of this class. In future versions of this class, I hope to have a style guide implemented here, but we're still working on something that'll work with Python. Yep. We're all the way to main?
Yeah.
So you may have word fun after get phrase. That I don't care what order that is, as long as they both run when I go to check them, right? So let's look at what we just copied and pasted in. Remove punctuation takes a phrase. It creates an empty variable that's called phrase without punctuation. When you see two quotes right next to each other, that means it's an empty string, but it sets up space to hold it. We're going to loop all the way through our original phrase, one letter at a time. And if the letter is not in string dot punctuation, we're going to put it into our new string without punctuation variable by adding the letter. And then we're going to return our new string. Now, the reason we had to import string is because we're using a predefined punctuation function, method call, data structure from that module. Could I have written code to have done this? Yes, but why waste time defining what all the different punctuation possible are if somebody's already done it for me, right? And now, this if statement is looking for a failure kind of situation, right? It wants it not to be part of this punctuation string. So it's like doing the negative of something. But I wanted to give you an example of a not in use in a loop or a conditional statement. So here it is. Now, if I take this function, I can call it in the function of word fun to get my next print statement, right? Because we're calling functions inside of functions this time. Right? So we can just print I never can spell punctuation without thinking about it really hard. Now, not only have I called a function inside of the function I just defined, I'm also calling it inside of a print function. Can you do that? Absolutely. If the print function returns a string, you can call a function in a print statement. If it doesn't return a string, then you have to worry about changing the types. If it returns a number, you have to force it to be a string, that sort of thing. Right? Now, let's make sure this works because we haven't tested it yet. Give it some more punctuation just because. Right? So I give it a bunch of punctuation at each end and I give it a word. Let's see if it removes it. Now, did that give you the results that you thought you would get? So it's 15 long because the count's coming before we remove the punctuation. When it goes to lowercase, it just keeps the punctuation because there is no lowercase for punctuation. They're just punctuation. Uppercase still has the punctuation because we haven't removed it yet. And no punctuation has the uppercase and lowercase mix because we didn't tell it to take it out. Now, had we done it in a different order, you still would get the same results because we didn't save the two upper or the lower or the upper or the without punctuation. We didn't save that. We just printed it. So we never changed the original phrase. So if I put one more line in there, is this just print phrase? It would print the original as is with punctuation and everything because we never saved our changes. Thumbs up? Yeah, that's fine. Ask me a question. Okay, got it? Okay. Yes. Oh, yeah, okay. Because you came back in late, so absolutely. And I am recording this, so you'll be able to grab the whole video of it if you want to. Yeah, yeah, good. All right, questions? Is there a part 3? We're not going to get to part 3. I got 5 minutes left. But if you turn in part 1 and part 2, I'll give you full credit for this lab today. Is it? Oh, okay. Well, let's go look at part 3 then. I don't know. It's been a long time since I wrote this. If you need to leave on time, leave it into class. If you don't, then stay. I'm gonna keep coding for a while. Yeah. So part 3 is actually using lists and not just strings. So we're going to create a list that keeps the grade, and then it's going to print out the entire list. It's also going to print out max, minimum, and average. So that was my email, not my Word document. All right. So now we have word fun. We have all this. We're going to create a new function called calculate average. We're also going to create a function called enter student grade. So we have 2 more functions that we're going to do for part 3. Right? So let's start off with, I know my thing says to calculate average, but we kind of need the grades to test if calculate average works. So let's go ahead and do that one. And I know it says to calculate student grades, but I'm shortening it because I can. So it's going to prompt for the grade, so it's not going to take any parameters. Oops. Let's do this again where I can Be back at the top of the screen. There's got to be a better way than putting in blank spaces, but anyway. All right, so we want to first off, we got to create a place to save the grades. So let's create an empty list called grades. Now, the square brackets indicate it's a list. Putting nothing in it indicates it's an empty list. I will record all of this, so if you need to leave, feel free. If you could stay with me. Either way, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to narrate myself doing the rest of this lab, and you'll have the video to go back to. All right, so we got the empty list. And now we want to create a loop. Because anytime you see the word iterates means you're going to need a loop. We want to create a loop that's going to run however many grades worth that we need to enter. So first we're going to ask our user how many grades they're entering. So let's do that. I'm going to creatively call it number. I guess I could call it number of grades, but I'm just going to call it number for right now. And it's going to be an input statement. And I'm just going to ask them how many grades, right? I could make this pretty and make it have a really nice prompt, but we're just going straight to the point here. And now I need that loop to run that many times. So since I know how many times it's going to run, because the user is going to tell me, I'm going to use a for loop. The for I in range number, whatever number they give me. I want to get a grade. I want the user to give me a grade, right? Now, I'm going to divide this up on multiple lines. You could do it on one line. If you're an experienced programmer and you want to do it on on one line, y'all feel free. I'm going to create a very temporary variable called A grade. So what I did here, I think I did it right. It specifically says that when you ask them, it should say enter grade 1, enter grade 2, enter grade 3. So it should change. So I want an input statement. I want them to enter the grade, and I want it to give me the number. So the str forces I to be a string, and input statements only take strings and characters. Does anybody disagree with what I have here for entering, for it to count? Grade 1, 2, 3, 4. Somebody please disagree with me because it's not right. So remember, I starts at 0. So it would say enter grade 0 instead of grade 1, and our user doesn't necessarily count like a computer scientist. So we're going to just very quickly put a +1. Oops. +1 in there. So that +1 doesn't actually get added to I. It's just for that print statement. But it puts it back into a number that your everyday user is expecting. So that should get us the grade. Now, once we have that grade, we need to add it to our list, right? So Now we want grades dot append a underscore grade. Because remember from the lecture on Tuesday, append takes whatever is in between the parentheses and adds it to the end of your list. But if your list has nothing in it, the first one goes in the first spot, the second one goes in the next spot, so on and so forth. Yes, that was my knee popping. Yes.
Be like the comma. So like for on the A grade equals input enter grade, instead of like plus string and plus one. There's like a comma between different.
It may be because I get mixed up on it. Prints will take both. I think it has to be plus and inputs. Have you run it and tested it?
Maybe. No, but. Oh, there's a plus right there.
The pluses work because it would have given me a syntax error if it didn't.
I don't think it's work.
Commas won't work in input statements, but they will work in print statements. Why they can't be consistent, I have no idea. Commas won't work because you're making one long string for your input to post out. That's why it has to be pluses. All right, so this should put all of our grades into the string or the list, sorry. Yes. And then after we're out, I so wish it would just scroll the way I want it to. All right, so there's more stuff I need to do in here, but I kind of want to test things. So let's go ahead and do that other function. Calculate no, I don't need calculate average. Let's run this. But I got to go back to main first and tell it to run. Tell word fun to go away for a minute. Oops. Hate it when I hit the wrong button. Line 90, line 7 gets grades. Okay, I obviously misspelled something. Give me a second. Why did I call it calculate grades? Because I messed up. Can somebody close that door? How many grades? Let's do 3. All right, so a string object cannot be interpreted as an integer. Everything we read in as an input is a string. So before I put it into grades, I need to convert it to an integer. So the easiest way to do that is do int around the input. I did change it to get grades because that makes more sense.
Oh, okay, so now it matches.
Right, now it matches. So let's run this one more time. I might, you might have seen something I didn't see. So I could put anything in here as my grades. The student wasn't doing very well. Now, can I see if it went into the list? No, because I didn't print the list. So the next thing I want to do now is probably go back and I'm going to print the list. And I'm probably going to go ahead and put the print statement in for printing the min and the max because they're just simple calls, right? So now we can go down here outside of our loop. And we can do print statements. Print. And for testing purposes, we could just put print grades and it should print the list. If you want it to be pretty, you need to make a loop where it prints each one on a different line. But for what we're doing right now, this will work. We also could do print. And let's see if these two things work. I'm sorry that this took longer than the class period. Should have.
Oh, it's a see.
Okay. Sorry. I did Java again. We spend 13 years teaching Java and then you switch to a different language, your brain gets confused, especially when you're as old as I am. So the whole list printed out, right? Now, that's not the prettiest formatting. You could do a loop and you could make it print much prettier. Up to you on this one, because I didn't specify. If you want to print it out this way, that's fine, because I didn't specify how the list had to be printed, as long as you print the list. So if this line 62 here does the minimum, guess what maximum is? Same thing, but you change min to max. Yeah, sometimes it's nice. I think it's called differently, but I think they're built into array lists anyway. I don't know. They may not be built into regular lists. Java is definitely not as user-friendly as Python is, but Python also lets you get away with bad behavior too much. Yes. I'll come look at it in just a second. All right. So this will do max. But we also need to do the average. So we have to create that function for average. And I'm just going to call it average. It says calculate average over there, but I'm just shortening things. You call it whatever you want. Definitely, we want to create that. The average needs to be given the list of grades, right? So it needs grades as a parameter. And then it needs a for grade in grades loop, right? I have so many white lines in this code, it's not even funny. All right. So we're going to loop through every grade. And we need to get a total. We need them to add together and get a total. So I'm going to need a variable to hold that. Start off with, you have a 0 total, right? Because we haven't put anything in it. And for every grade in grades, I want total plus equal grade. Right? Because I want to add grade to total every time through. Grades with an S is the entire list. Grade singular is one grade in that list. This is common practice for lists. Lists will have a plural name, and then the variable in the loop will be the singular form of it. Once I get that total, I can return total divided by grade, length of grades. Because the average is your total divided by the number of grades you have. So the length of the list is the number of grades you have. Yes? And now up here, print. I know I'm going really fast, but I'm trying to get y'all out of here because we're like 15 minutes over, and I'm so sorry. Oops. I thought I fixed that. Oh. Again, when we inputted all the grades, I forgot to change them to integers. Oops. I fixed it in one place, didn't fix it in the other. So now they should all be integers. And we can do math on them. Right?
But what was the average for?
Are we good? All right. If you're still having trouble and you have time, stay and I'll look at your code individually. Scroll up to the top and scroll through all of it. Okay, for the video. I can do that. All right, so import statement, main function. Remember to uncomment out the two red lines. They need to be not red when you turn it in. We have get phrase. We have count. There's all of count. Let's make it full screen where, oops. What are you? Sometimes Teams drives me crazy. Y'all like the video stuff, so we have count. And you should also go back and put in, what am I trying to say? Comments. Every one of these functions should have comments. I didn't write them, but you should just for the practice. And then we have word fun and remove punctuation. Get grades and average. And then the very last thing would be your call main. Once I remove a whole bunch of white lines. Whole bunch of white lines. Anyway, so there's a call to main down there. Don't forget it. All right. Anybody need anything else before I stop the video?